It's closer to Sunni than the Shia. So there's 8 different schools of jurisprudence that regulate how one makes the ritual prayer, how the marriage contract should be between a male and a female, how the wedding should be conducted or what should be said. Is it permissible to consume this type of food but not consume this type of food? There are different opinions amongst these 8 schools of thought. And then even amongst these schools of thought, one jurist in one school of thought may have a differing opinion of another jurist in the same school of thought. So the Islamic jurisprudence is very flexible. It's very rich. There's many different opinions in regards to particular things within the Islamic jurisprudence. The Islamic jurisprudence must factor in 5 things if a Muslim in a Muslim majority country is to enact any type of ruling or law, must factor in 5 things. It's called al-qasid in Arabic. There's 5 objectives. The protection of an-nafs, meaning the life of a human being. No law can be instituted that will place the life of the human being in jeopardy. The second one is ad-din, meaning religion, that places the free practice of religion in jeopardy. The third is al-mal, property, meaning that people have to have property rights, because if you don't have property rights, you can't have economic dignity. The fourth is the protection of al-aql, meaning human intellect. You're able to think freely and that you're able to have intellectual property. And the fifth of these is an-nasl in Arabic, which means to be able to protect your offspring, or to protect your posterity is another word that's used. These are the 5 objectives. Now, in a Muslim majority country, if there is an Islamic authority, the state can and probably should factor in its laws and its rulings these 5 objectives within an Islamic state. Now, within an Islamic state, the laws that are relating to social transactions between people who are not Muslim and family law between those people who are not Muslim are not supposed to be judged by the Islamic rule. In the history of when Muslims governed Spain for approximately 7 centuries, Jews had their own judges regarding family matters in terms of divorce, marriage, inheritance, transactions between Jews, and likewise Christians had their own judges. They didn't go to the Muslim judge to try to rule on what's permissible in their religion. And this is in history. Same thing when the Mughals ruled the Indian subcontinent. That people who were Hindus or Zoroastrians were not ruled according towards a particular type of Islamic jurisprudence in regards to those matters. So that this Sharia is incumbent upon the person who believes in it, not the one who disbelieves in it. Now, if a person is in a country that is not Muslim, there are certain parts of the jurisprudence that are incumbent, and there are certain parts of it that can't be fulfilled. And the part that can be fulfilled are those things that are part of our worship that are mandatory, that are protected in the society that we live in. Then we're supposed to freely practice those. Like we have the Bill of Rights in the United States of America. Muslims have the freedom in America to pray 5 times a day, to have mosque, and to make Friday prayer. We have the freedom to establish an Islamic charity and give charity. We can fast Ramadan. We can get passports as American citizens and make pilgrimage to Mecca. So the basic 5 parts of our religion, those things can be fulfilled. We can get married, which is something that is highly recommended for the Muslims, only Abu Hanifa said that marriage is wajib. The other jurists said it's only sunnah mu'akkada. It's a strong sunnah, but it's not obligatory. So these things can be performed in the United States of America. As far as my Sharia, I don't have to go deal in compound interest if I don't want to. Pork is forbidden for Muslims. No one's putting a gun to my head and say, Dawood, go to the rib shack and get some ribs. Alcohol consumption and drug consumption is forbidden for Muslims. I don't, even though it's legal, I don't need to go and get a drink. No one's forcing me to do it. No one's forcing me to open up a liquor store and sell liquor. And by the way, Muslims aren't allowed to sell alcohol. This is also forbidden, because you may travel in some different places and see that Muslims own liquor stores. Because we have an ethical principle in Islam that none of you is a true believer until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So if I don't love drugs for you, or if I don't love alcohol, or if I don't love drugs and alcohol, or pornography, or lottery for myself, then why would I sell you drugs, alcohol, pornography, and lottery? It's an ethical principle. You're supposed to do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. This is this is an ethical principle in Islam. Now, in regards to the judgments, we have the rule of law here in America. We have a judicial system. Some of the rules and some of the judgments aren't exactly the Islamic rulings according to our schools of thought, but we have a higher principle in the Sharia, which is that the Muslim is supposed to fulfill and is supposed to execute and be loyal to all contracts and all agreements. And any Muslim who resides in America legally, be they a legal resident or be they a citizen, has a social contract with America. There are two verses in the Quran that elaborate on this. In the chapter, the fourth chapter of the Quran called Surah An-Nisa, the woman says, "O you who believe, fulfill all obligations. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud." The second verse in the Quran says, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Fulfill the covenant, fulfill the agreement, and most surely your agreement is what you're going to be questioned about. You're responsible for it with God. It's mas'ul. You're responsible for that. So anytime a Muslim immigrated here, they had to do a process. They had to fill out some paperwork, sign their name, that they would agree to the agreement. They took a citizenship test. They passed it. They filled out the form to be a citizen, and they swore an oath to obey the Constitution of the United States of America. This agreement is not just between, from our perspective, is not just an agreement between the person and the state. It's an agreement between the person, the state, and God is the witness of it. And if the Muslim didn't like it, they shouldn't have swore the oath and signed the contract. They shouldn't have come. If they can't adhere to the laws of the land. And if the Muslim does not like the law of the land, they can do like anyone else of any religion. They can get involved in the political process, and they can lobby their politicians and write their congressman and write their senator and say, I don't like the health care bill, or I don't like the proposed same-sex marriage, or I don't like the emergency manager bill that the governor signed, or whatever. We can do that. We can do that to try to change the law and make it more in accordance with our values, because all Americans vote. If all Americans have a faith tradition, normally vote according to their values. And we Muslims have values that influence our politics like anyone else. If things get to the point, let me make one more point about obeying the law of the land. I was just for the audiences, especially when Muslims are around, especially Muslim men. In the previous scriptures of God, according to how we Muslims believe, there was no limitation ever set on how many women a man could marry.